Hey everyone, it's just Talking Hands. A while ago, somebody by the name of Raul contacted me through my Instagram. I have it in my bio if you ever need to contact me directly. Asking me if I can show a video on how to clean a 911 from Springfield, which it's been a while because I unfortunately got caught up with a lot of stuff, got pretty busy, and I didn't have time to make a video. So I'm pretty sure he's probably already figured it out already or watched another video. But anyway, I figured I'll make the video anyway. Just show you how to clean these Springfield 911. This is the 380 version. They just recently came out with the 9mm. Of course, the first thing that you do with any firearm when you're doing anything is doesn't matter what you're doing with it, whether you're cleaning it or fixing something or doing anything with the firearm other than shooting it, of course, is to make sure that it's unloaded. And just a little refresher on how to unload it is make sure that you get the order of this correct. A lot of people just think that as long as you do these two things, it makes it clear, but it has to be these two things in this order. And when you don't do it in the correct order, you get something like this.
And see, this is the unloaded gun. Right here, this is the gun. No, empty weapon. Empty weapon. This is a Glock 40. 50 Cent, Too Short, all of them talk about Glock 40. Okay, I'm the only one in this room professional enough that I know of to carry this Glock 40. I'm the only one. Right? No more. Is everybody all right?
You don't want to embarrass yourself like that, and just keep in mind that was a DEA agent teaching a gun safety class. So if it can happen to a DEA agent, supposedly trained and everything like that, it can happen to any of us. So just always keep this in mind. So this order is very important. The first thing that you do is to remove the magazine, or if the magazine's already out, just double check to make sure that the magazine's already out, because it could be like the flush fit magazine that you can't see from this angle. So make sure that there's nothing in here. So clear the magazine, clear the source of the ammunition, and then the second thing you do is to clear the chamber. Pull the slide back, and you actually physically look down in there to see that there's nothing inside the chamber. And while you're here, take a second look down the magazine well, make sure that it's empty. So remember, magazine first, and then chamber. Right? And might as well double check the magazine while you're here. Okay? So this firearm technically is clear. Now to disassemble the 911, is very similar to the 1911, except you don't need to do anything with the bushing here because the recoil spring on it is fairly light, so you can just kind of hold it by hand. With the 1911, you should take the bushing out and take the spring out first, so that you don't have trouble keeping the slide where you need to be. But like I said, with this, the spring is pretty light. So what you want to do is there's a little notch right here on the slide. It matches with a little notch that you can't really see because it's under the slide, but on this slide stop there's a little semicircle that matches that, and you would see it once you start pulling the slide back. Once you get right over it, it's hard to see on camera. Well, you can kind of see it actually. Yeah, right there, you see how it just kind of lines up right there. So you can hold the slide and the gun together, and then from the opposite side of the gun there's a little nub right here that's actually connected to the slide stop. So you just kind of push on that nub until there's a little gap between the frame and the slide stop. You just put your finger right in there and just pop right out, and that just comes right out. Then from here, slowly release the slide and just pull it forward off the gun. And for a normal cleaning field strip, that's all you had to do with this bottom half. So make sure you don't pull the trigger by accident and drop this hammer while this is all taken apart like this. But yeah, you don't really need to take anything else apart on this part. That's the part. The top half, now you have the slide with the barrel and the spring in here. It's not quite a captured spring, if I remember correctly. Oh, basically you just press on the spring itself to kind of take off that that pressure that's holding it in there, and it should pop right out. Yeah, so yeah, it's not a capture spring. So you have the guide rod here, and then the spring itself. That's off. Once that's out, the barrel just kind of lifts and moves back right out of there. Let me see if I could do it in a better angle here so you can see it. Basically just lift it out of the groove and straight out. And basically that's it. That's just as far as you really need to take it apart for like a basic cleaning, basic field strip. To clean it, there are some solvents out there, like the hops number 9 and things like that. But honestly, for a gun, as long as you're like maintaining it regularly, you don't really need to have all those things. Those are for like if there's really like a very thick buildup of brass or carbon or copper or something somewhere that just does not come off. But most of the time, if you're cleaning it after, I would say most guns, if you clean it within 500 rounds, you don't have to worry about that. Unfortunately, with the 911, because it is kind of based on an older design, you do have to clean this a lot more often. I would say that if you go to the range and fire 200 rounds out of it, when you come home you should clean it. That's the only kind of bad thing about this gun, in my opinion. Once it gets dirty, it does tend to start acting kind of weird. Like on mine, once it gets dirty, it will stop feeding the first round from the top of the magazine. I don't know, it's weird. It'll go kind of like almost in the battery, but not quite. You just kind of have to tap the slide and it'll go to battery and it'll shoot. And it'll do the same thing for the very last round on the magazine. So only the first and the last round for some reason. Every other round will fire fine. But it'll only do that when it starts to get dirty. For the first 200 rounds, I would say, it will run flawlessly. So that's kind of the only bummer about it, is that you do have to keep it clean. I do wish that maybe somebody would sell a heavier recoil spring. Maybe that can fix that problem. Just like I said, it just barely does not go in the battery to where like if you tap it a little bit, it goes. I feel like if the recoil spring was just slightly heavier, it actually would bypass that problem. So to clean it, you're gonna need some kind of rag. And oh yeah, I don't really know where my gun cleaning placemat is. I think it's downstairs. I'm just kind of too lazy to go down and get it. But so that's why it's on my desk. But you just basically take any rag. Usually you have multiple rags, like a dirty rag and then a clean rag, but I just have one. It's not really a big deal. I just kind of use one side for the initial wipe down, and then the other side is a cleaner side that I use to do the final. So just basically just wipe down all the surfaces that you see any kind of grime or carbon buildup. You can also apply a little bit of the oil itself, because oil actually helps it clean as well. It's not just for lubrication. So you can put a little bit of oil on the rag to help you, wipe off, some of this grime. Focus on things like where metal or metal contact on the gun. And very important would be things like, the rails on the slide and on the frame. So make sure those are nice and clean. Now, be careful with this right here. That's the ejector. On this design firearm, this is not really a fixed piece like it would be on a regular 1911. It is on kind of a spring. If you push this all the way down, which some people have done, you can basically bend that spring that is on. It'll not really bend it. It'll kind of like go behind the spring, and then you have to basically take the main spring housing out and realign the spring and put this thing back. You might need to rebend it too. So, just kind of be careful with this little thing. It's kind of a weird design, but it's there. So as long as you know about it, keep that in mind. Just don't push that all the way down. Kind of work around it. And if you have like a cleaning brush, that would also help too. To kind of, I would use the nylon bristles, kind of like a toothbrush, to do the cleaning instead of the copper bristles, because like I said, if you clean this every 100-200 rounds, it's not going to be that dirty where he's going to need something really abrasive like the copper bristles on that. Oh, another thing that works really well is our Q-tips. Q-tips can get into like the little parts right there very well. Yeah, I know I say all these things, but you see me not using them. So this is how I am. Okay, done with that. So Now with the slide, same thing. All the parts that you can kind of use your common sense, knowing that the parts that make contact. Should wipe it down really well. Now for the oil, there's a lot of choices. The one that they recommend from the factory is made by Lucas Oil, which a lot of people, if you've heard of Lucas before, it wouldn't be with gun products. It's for like race cars. They make a lot of lubrication products and additive products for race cars, and the other products for the race cars at least are actually really good products. I use it for my cars and everything like that, and they've been proven. I mean, I don't know how proven they are with the gun industry, but from what I've read, their stuff is actually really good. But I haven't really spent the money in it. I still have like a lot of this Miltech left, so I'm just using that. Like I said, a little bit of oil would help clean it up. On this, make sure you clean out this back area here, especially if you carry this in your pocket. Because sometimes lint will collect in there, so clean that up really nice too. And right in between there and there, Q-tip would be very, very useful to clean those spots right there. I only shot a little bit out of this just to make it a little dirty for the video, so I'm just gonna skip all that. But if it's a little dirtier than this one, then yeah, you definitely go with the Q-tips to clean it out really well. Another really important surface, which a lot of people kind of ignore. You see a lot of people that try to make their 1911s more reliable. They focus on like the feed ramp and the slide and this surface here, but this surface is really important too. This back surface, because actually the loading of the round into the chamber is a controlled load where it doesn't just smack onto this face and then the extractor grabs onto it. The rim actually slides up this back surface up underneath that extractor, so it makes a lot of contact with here. So make sure that's nice and polished and nice and clean right there, because if there's any burrs or anything on that surface, that will prevent that casing from sliding up the surface smoothly. That will cause a malfunction as well on this type of firearm. But yeah, it's weird. Every time you hear somebody or like a gunsmith talking about doing like a reliability package or whatever they want to call it on a 1911, they talk about all the typical things, the feed ramp, throating it, and all these things, all these typical terms, but they seem to ignore that back face, and that's actually really important too. Okay, so once that's finished, it's time to wipe down the barrel itself. Now for the inside of the barrel, obviously you're not going to sit here and try to wipe the inside of the barrel with this. I actually recommend just using a bore snake. A lot of people consider that kind of like the lazy man's tool, but I mean, if it works, it works. Why work harder than you need to? The bore snake combines the cleaning brush and the cleaning cloths all on one pass, and you don't need to run the brush through the barrel a lot of times. Actually, I kind of recommend not running the brush a lot of times. So like running the bore snake through this thing once is actually more than adequate. So in my opinion, it's actually like even a better way to clean, not just the lazy way, but like a better way for the barrel itself and the longevity of the rifling, to just simply run the bore snake through it once, or at the most twice if you waited a long time before cleaning and you see a lot of buildup inside the barrel. Now with the 911, it does have a fully ramped barrel, which means the ramp is integrated into the barrel instead of being a part of the frame. So that is a very important part to make sure is nice and clean and nice and smooth. If you see a lot of buildup on that, it'd be a good idea to use a little bit of solvent to clean that up, to make sure that it stays smooth. I wouldn't use too much like physical abrasive things on it though, because you don't want to scratch it. You want it to stay pretty well polished. You take like a Dremel tool with the polishing wheel, polish that up every now and then. Okay, so the barrel done. These other parts, very simple, just a little light wipe down on them. Sorry, I keep going out of frame here. Yeah, a lot of these other parts are not high friction areas. I mean, the guide rod is kind of, but it's basically just, there's only one direction for that spring to go. Okay, so I mean, I did a very, very basic wipe down, not really too thorough, but just to show you, how it's done. Basically what comes next is, re-lubrication and reassembly. To lubricate the gun and to put it all back together, the key here is not to over lubricate the gun. A lot of people say it would draw more dust, whatever, but it's also just so when you're shooting it, or when you have it in your holster or anything like that, it does kind of make a mess, because the tolerances in the gun are actually kind of tight. So if you have too much oil in it, it'll actually just start coming out, all the edges, I guess. But I do like to put just a little bit of oil on pretty much everything as I'm putting back together, just for corrosion resistance, really. And then put a drop of oil on the spots that you're supposed to put the oil on according to the manual. So usually I just take the slide, I just turn it upside down, rest it on the sights like that, and then the first thing to go back in, of course, is the barrel. And again, they do recommend the Lucas oil. I don't have any. I'm just using Miltech, but it's always a good idea just to go with whatever the manufacturer recommends. So let's put a little bit here and I just kind of rub it, basically just lightly on top of everything, so it's not like I'm smothering everything in oil, getting it ready to go in a saute pan or anything like that. And then the part that actually needs to have a good bit of oil would be right there, and then right there. Because that kind of rubs against the front of the slide, and that slides along the top of the slide there too. So just kind of make sure those two spots have a little bit more. The tip of the barrel on the outside here, and then the top of the barrel there, not the bottom. Although probably won't hurt the bottom. That had a little bit of oil too. So just slide that back in until it kind of fits in its place. And another spot that needs oil is this part right here. You see how shiny it is? Because that actually rubs up against the hammer. So make sure there's a drop of oil in there. Put a little bit of oil on the guide rod, just so that the spring glides on there nice. Put the spring onto the guide rod, then just kind of put the end of the spring into the slide there, and then you just kind of press the guide rod back and tuck it up in front of that cam on the barrel there. And typically on these and any 1911 design, you want to kind of put a little bit of oil on the inside of the rails here and here, and then once you put the gun together, you can start working it all in. So just do. Can I see it here? So you put a drop there, and then put a drop there. That's it. Now, with the frame, again, try to think of the spots that would make contact with the other metal. And typically you just want to put some oil on the top of the rails on the frame part. Let's see what else would probably need it. You know, might have a little bit of oiliness on my fingers from handling it, so just kind of rubbing off any excess and the rest of the metal here. Just again, like I said, just give everything a light coating. Okay, so to reassemble it now, this is a little bit tricky. So you want to line up the slide from the front of the frame. So you put like the back of the slide to the front of the frame, and make sure that it's going onto the rail on both sides here, not just on the side that you're looking at. Now when you get to this thing right here, the thing that I warned you about before, not to press it all the way in, the reason why it does get pressed in sometimes is because for the slide to get past it, you see how it kind of just gets in the way. You have to press down on it to get that slide over. The trick is to press down only exactly enough to where it goes under, not press it down too much. So just with my finger and just press it down a little bit and move the slide forward to get it out of the way as I press that down. And once the tip of it goes right underneath the slide, I stop pushing down on it. I just move the slide back over it. See, now it's tucked up in there correctly. Now here's the thing about getting this back on. First, you want to get this part, like the actual, stem of it or rod of it or whatever, through the hole before moving the slide back, because it needs to line up with that lug that you saw that's attached to the bottom of the barrel. When you look through that hole, you see that it's lined up. So you need to kind of work the slide a little bit until it lines up and it goes in. Now, of course, pull it out a little bit. So now you kind of pull it out a little bit so that you can rotate it past the the frame, just like right around here. Now is when you gotta move the slide back. You gotta move the slide back until that notch lines up with the slide stop, and once it lines up with it, you just push it all the way in, and that's it. Of course, double check the function. And yeah, I got oil everywhere. I'll just wipe that off with the rag later. Make sure that this holds the slide back. Safety on. Press the trigger. Hammer should not fall. Safety off. Remember, check magazine first, and then the chamber. Then safety off. Trigger should fall. So far it seems to work. Press the trigger and hold it. Cock it back, let it go. Let go of the trigger, you should hear it reset. And then press it again. So yeah, that's pretty much basic function test. So that's pretty much it. All the important spots, like I said, are oiled. This top of the slide here is oiled. Around the tip of the barrel is oiled. Not in the barrel. Do not put oil inside the barrel. Okay, a lot of people make that mistake. I would put a little bit in there when I'm running the bore snake through. But you put that in there before you run the bore snake through, so that the bore snake will actually clean that mostly out, because you don't want like actual fluid inside the barrel when you're shooting. The rails have a little bit of oil. Pretty much anywhere where there's metal to metal contact should be pretty well oiled. So that's it. That's pretty much it. It's not that difficult. It is a little bit more of a procedure than like Glock or a lot of these new polymer guns that usually just lock the slide back, press down a lever, and the whole thing comes apart. So it is a little bit more of a process, but it's not terrible. Once you know what you're doing. But anyway, that's it. So if you enjoyed this video, hopefully you found it educational. And just remember that safety is always number one. So remember what I was telling you about properly clearing the gun before you do anything with it. The order that you do it in is very important. Magazine first, and then the chamber. Do it in that order, so you don't be like that DEA agent. And yeah, so as long as you do all that, and you follow these other instructions, I mean, everything should work out fine. And then you keep this gun clean. I find it to be pretty reliable. So just as long as it's clean. So anyway, enjoy shooting, and I hope you enjoy your Springfield 911. Thank you for watching, and of course don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you do like it.